Feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
GrokTALK.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
All right, we've got James O'Keefe in the studio, and we're not going to let him go yet. We're going to run for an extra segment on GrokTALK. Welcome back. It is still Saturday, the broadcast day, Saturday, December 6, 2014. We are, as always, brought to you by the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers and GrokTALK.com. James is here, and we started talking about how to get people to get past their fear, to move forward, what's their point at which they can make a decision to become an activist, to become a citizen journalist, and to start to ask questions and confront people about the things they see going on in their state, local, or national government that they think are wrong, or that actually are wrong in many cases.
You know, and they can start out writing letters to the editor or commenting on the newspapers or on TV station blogs and blogs like ours, and some of them do. And some of the more pithy people we find on our blog, we say, come and join us.
We do. We've had commenters in studio. I can tell you how I started. After 9/11, I noticed that things were a little weird, so I started learning things about government that I had never been taught in public school. I educated myself about the process, and on the way discovered that I was actually a conservative. I started commenting anonymously in places like Red State, where I began to see a lot of people who had some of the same thoughts and ideas and were expressing them, and I looked at how they expressed them, and I'd always been somebody who communicated very well through the written word. At one point, I eventually started my own blog here in the state on WordPress. Within a couple of weeks, Jane Aiken, who is part of CNHT, she's one of the directors, found me and invited me to become part of New Hampshire Taxpayer Radio, which was their radio program at the time, 2 hours every week. They needed a board operator. I had the experience. I went down there and started doing that. A couple weeks after that, I got invited to start writing at a local blog, political blog, right and left. It was a little bit a lot more well-read than I was, just by myself. And within a matter of weeks, I catapulted myself from complete obscurity to somebody people knew and who were beginning to read. And I became pretty successful at that. I pissed off a lot of Democrats. I irritated a lot of people, and I discovered that I liked it. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. You know, I'm out there trying to discover what the truth is and reporting my observations on it, and people are responding. And it wasn't a drug, but I was like, well, I need to keep looking at things. I need to investigate in my own time, you know, around my full-time job about the things that I see. And then people started sending me tips and telling me about things that were going on. And then I would learn how, and, you know, you went from not knowing where to go to being able to look up a bill, check somebody's house ratings, find out their connections, see who voted from their house, you know, and all these things. And you begin to pile them all together and you post them. And it creates a level of outrage, which is what we're attempting to do to get people to become active.
Well, you guys have a lot more transparency in New Hampshire than in most other states.
That's true.
You guys
true.
are talking about what relationship with the bill. In some state capitals, there's like one reporter, and they're lazy, and they print what the press release says. So, you know, if you guys existed in Louisiana, I mean, they probably would put you in jail or it'd be a better place to live. But I think this whole conversation really, again, has to come down to, you know, whenever I meet with a donor or a recruit, it's what are they going to do to me when I go out and ask the tough questions? And in our case, it's been interesting because this year, wrapping up 2014, in the beginning of the year, Andrew Cuomo, New York State governor, tried to come after my organization and go audit me and harass me in regards to employment issues. And there's so many regulations in the state of New York that it's impossible not to break one of them, right? Because there's a tangled web they weave, and this is tyranny. And if they want to get you, they can. But
Mark Stein jokes about New York and saying he doesn't go there because he's out of compliance with the Bureau of Compliance.
Yeah. That's right. We paid so much. I mean, we pay an enormous amount of money just towards unemployment insurance and whatnot for our employees. And we get this audit letter. I take the letter. I send it to all the reporters I know. We make a federal case out of it, and Andrew Cuomo backs out of his coming after us. So a lot of people say, James, you're the one that got away from the tyrants. Like they can't really shut you down now because you've passed the event horizon. It's gotten to the point now where if they do come after you, and it's obvious, then it's gonna hurt their cause. I wouldn't take that for granted because certainly they can manufacture some crime and in the future, but for other people aren't so lucky. Mm-hmm. People like Chris Hennigan. Yeah. People like Joe Barton.
Well, I mean, and Chris was coming into the country. He was isolated at an airport, and as a Philadelphia, TSA is not nice people, and he was just turned around, sent back out, and said, we don't like what you're doing. Basically, we'll call it a violation of the terms of your visa. Goodbye. Yeah. And don't apply too soon. And then they tried every which way to catch him out. On the other hand, I think there is a case of getting to critical mass. I think your team has reached that point. I like to think here we've reached that point because there's enough of us in enough walks of life and spread out enough that if they try to pick us off, we'd be going public all over the place.
That's right.
Causing trouble.
I think you guys are at that point here in New Hampshire. I think, yeah.
Like when they tried to pick off Joe Barton, who has worked for you and is as a friend of ours. We had the rest of the story that the other media didn't publish, and we put that out right away. We issued a preemptive strike, effectively.
Yeah, I think you guys are the rare exception. I think in New Hampshire, it's a relatively small community, which is why what Richard Head did to Joe Barton is so surprising. Mm-hmm. That he thought he had to, and he certainly tried to do it with me. And then Breakthrough, and maybe Richard Head's people are listening to this broadcast right now.
They might be.
Hello, Attorney Generals. In Breakthrough, they
well, they said when they came to my house looking for you that they listen to us, they read our stuff. We watch your speeches, we read your posts. I mean, they obviously consider us a threat. They consider you a threat.
The Republican Party considers us a threat.
Well, and so they should, because the Republican Party is not guarding the Republic.
They did. Just as an aside, James, somebody working as a proxy for the Republican Party tried to get me fired from my job for opposing the apparently rushed through party choice for chairman of the state party. There was a race. There were candidates. We had chosen ours. They had theirs. Happened to be Jennifer Horn. And we were writing about problems we saw with Jennifer and what might happen if she was, raised to that position as state party chair. And so somebody at a different blog with a lot more or less readers than we had put up a post about how I was being a misogynist and these other things. And then all of a sudden that post appears at the president of my company's office with a suggestion that they fire me because I hate women. And, of course, I never said anything like that. And he called me up and he said, hey, what's going on? And I explained the story to him. And he said, all right, just be careful. He was really cool about it, small company. But it's everywhere. It's in your own party. If you're in a party, and you have to not be intimidated. When the Democrat Party started writing press releases about me, I started writing about their press releases about me, and they stopped. Mm-hmm. And that's where my threshold is. And in this state, it's easy to do that. And a lot of people are in much bigger states and places like Louisiana where they can't do that.
Yeah,
and they do. And let's mention another journalist that, in fact, was intimidated. It was more a case of nefarious forces that were engaging in the practice of swatting, i.e. calling out SWAT teams against people.
Right, yeah.
And Robert Stacey McCain is an old school shoe leather journalist who really goes after the facts. He's the most excellent guy. His wife had a job in the school system in Virginia, and they caused enough concern, created a perception of risk that she lost her job, and they had to move out of state. They ended up somewhere in West Virginia. I don't know and don't care, don't wish to know exactly where that is, but they ended up in West Virginia, in different accommodation. They basically lost her job and the home that went with it.
And the press called the swatting, and for those who don't know what swatting, it's a horrifying criminal act where you pose as someone who you pose as the person you're targeting. So let's say I'm James O'Keefe. They call up the 911. They say, I'm James O'Keefe, and I just shot my wife. or I just killed my girlfriend, and I'm standing here with a knife in my hand or a gun in my hand, and I regret what I've done. The SWAT team shows up with machine guns. Sorry, machine guns. Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, very likely machine
I'm
guns.
falling into their traps. They show up with guns, and they point them at you as you open the door, and they could kill you. This is not a joke, but the media calls it, they're just playing around with the swatting. It's a little game they're playing. This is not a game. This is not a prank. This is a crime, and I don't know why they don't take it seriously.
Yeah, and I think the local police forces do take it seriously, and when they find out they've been had, the trouble is you could be dead by the time they find out they've been had.
A little late for
But
you.
the media doesn't take it seriously. They think it's just a prank, is what they call it. Prank.
Yeah, and it most definitely is not. But it's like
I was sued for defamation by the guy, this crazy guy, the swatter, the guy who.
Kimberlin.
Maybe I shouldn't mention him by name.
Brett Kimberlin.
And I said, because some have linked him to the swatters, and he sued Glenn Beck, sued Michelle Malkin, sued me, sued all these people. It was all nonsense. But I had to take the line out of my book mentioning his name. And these guys are lawsuit trigger happy people, and they've got delusions of grandeur about the world. But Stacey McCain is a great reporter and is an example of someone who has been targeted, by the swatting.
So let's keep talking about this. I don't know, citizen journalism. You're at the national level at this point, but you focus on local media. You talk about local media because that's the place where you have the most impact.
And you're exposing corruption, and you're exposing skullduggery, fraud at all levels, commercial and political. And you're getting to the point where people are losing their jobs over what you do, whether it's the AGs resigning in Louisiana. I've got to extract that clip from your video because it's so great. All the politicians who became toast or lost their races, and we'll be able to add another one by tonight.
Just to recap, in Kentucky, Grimes went down. This is Allison Grimes, Senate candidate, went down, half a dozen to a dozen points after we broke the video of her staffer saying that she's a liar on coal and that she's going to blank over the coal. He used the F word there. The donor said she is going to F over the coal industry when she gets elected, and she lost that election. And then there was the video on in North Carolina released 2 days before the election, where the guy said that he wants to get non-citizens to vote. He resigned. That made the front page of the Charlotte Observer. There was the front page of the Denver Post. This is all local media coverage right before a massive Senate election. This is much more valuable than the New York Times or the AP. This is local media forcing to cover stories, people getting fired from their jobs for voter fraud. And Colorado was the best one. Colorado, the woman said, I walk up to her, I'm like, well, I want to vote multiple times. And she said, here's how you do it. Go, and this is her words, not mine, so forgive the racism here. She says, go to the ghetto where black people don't care about voting, and you can use their ballots. And I said, where do I go? She's like, go to 6th Avenue in Aurora, or as I call it, Ghetto Aurora. And you can harvest the black ballots and fill them out to vote multiple times. She was fired, and that made the Wall Street Journal. So our videos are being ignored by a lot of people, but it doesn't matter anymore. And I like to say that there's sort of varying degrees of the media losing relevance. First their first line of it was to attack me viciously. When I was still around, then they started to mock and ridicule me. And then after that, they started to ignore me. But I think when you get to the stage where they're ignoring you, then they cease to become relevant. Because I'll tell you what, those videos, people want to watch this stuff. It's interesting. It's enlightening. It's outrageous. People share it on Facebook. Our name was trending on Facebook. And no one in the national media thought this stuff was relevant. You know what that means to me? It means the national media is becoming irrelevant. And that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to hear conservatives complain about how they don't get national media coverage. Who cares? If you're trending on Facebook alongside Kim Kardashian's derriere and Honey Boo Boo's resurgence, then you're making a difference.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. And there's all sorts of places where this shows up. Facebook and Twitter, various news aggregation sites. I don't have time to follow all of Twitter. I follow Twitchy.com, which is Michelle Malkin's creation,
Right.
which is a great aggregator of conservative.
They've got the best
Twitter news.
highlights. Yeah.
Yeah. They bring you the hot stuff. I'm sure you feature on there fairly often.
Yeah, they've been very helpful, and they do great work. They somehow manage to find the best of the best tweets. But Twitter for me is a great. Twitter is more about breaking news. Like I'll tweet something out as it's happening. I was standing outside the Democratic Party. I'm like, I am standing outside the Democratic, and it was retweeted 100 times. When Facebook shut my page down after we were trending, they shut it down. The first thing I did was I was angry. The second thing is I pick up my phone, I took a screenshot of the page being disabled, and I tweeted it out because I didn't have Facebook anymore. So I went to Twitter, and that got retweeted 1,000 times in 5 minutes. 1,000 retweets, a big deal. And then reporters were breaking articles. James O'Keefe's page got shut down. So you have all the tools at your disposal.
Yep. And I think we do. And as we're very happy that we've got followers. We got people walk up to us and thank us, not on the same level that you do, because I'm vaguely of the same coloring and glasses and mustache as Skip. I get people walking up to me and thanking Skip. And
I get people calling me Skip. I don't look anything like him.
I have to remind them that
every time I go to your house, somebody calls me Skip.
So that that Skip's working at his desk right now, and I'm here to represent him.
That's right. That's right. Well, Skip started the site. Skip's equipment. Skip's energy. I mean, we've added our energy to his original plan, which was to just write his opinion and let people decide what they wanted about it, and that's how it all started.
And he writes his opinion and does his research, and he writes several posts every night. And Steve seems to write a bunch of posts all day, but I know he really writes them early in the morning and times them out.
Sometimes do, yeah.
And I write them when I can, and if it's a busy day, I may just
we're hoping to ramp things up this year, so
grab a cartoon and put a pithy comment with it and stick it out there. But we just try and keep the commentary on what's going on.
All right. So, is there anything coming up you can talk about?
Well, we're going to be focusing on the Gruber videos, which people have seen. We're going to be potentially talking to the guy who broke them and breaking some more of what he has. That's going to be happening this week. We're going to be focusing on some of the scandals, the more general non-election related scandals in the coming months, like the IRS scandal, the veterans scandal. And it's amazing how, there's this great video on YouTube where, the song Shake It Off by Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. Well, it's like Obama, just shake it off. Like scandals come, he just shakes it off. Like, I think the lyrics are, the vets are going to wait, and something's going to do. He just shakes it, it just comes and goes, every scandal. And he doesn't, nothing affects this guy. And we need to do more in-depth journalism about what's going on. And meanwhile, the journalists, I was watching CNN and I was expecting to see journalism, and I saw another special about Woodward and Bernstein. They're obsessed with Nixon. They cannot stop talking about corruption from 40 years ago. When the Woodward and Bernstein stuff is right out there right now, it's there for the plucking. There's great material. And the journalists cannot stop lionizing this bygone era of muckraking. Be a muckraker now.
Well, you know what's interesting is I think just prior to Obama's re-election or during the 2012 season, Woodward actually got out there and broke ranks with the Democrats and actually said what he felt about some of this stuff, and he was ostracized for it. They basically accused him of going senile, of losing it, and no longer being relevant.
That's right.
He got off the reservation, and boy, did he feel it.
Yeah, which is beyond ironic. This is the guy who's speaking truth to the current president, who won a Pulitzer for speaking truth to a former president, being hated on by the establishment media for doing what he's supposed to be doing. But this is a huge problem. I mean, everyone knows it's a problem. Journalism is dead, and the only ones who are going to resurrect it are outsiders. And that's why people need to overcome their fear. That goes back to our conversation from before. It's the only way we're going to be able to do the job.
Do you think there's a mass of potential whistleblowers sitting around the Obama administration? Obviously, in the core, there's these people they're just totally Obama. I mean, you've got Valerie Jarrett, obviously, and people like her.
I think she's one of the only ones that is they're loyal to each other. Everyone else is left.
Well, he's pissed off everybody. He's pissed off the intelligence community. He's pissed off the military. He's pissed off everybody because nothing's his fault, even though he's standing up there doing his talking.
I mean,
I'm just waiting for not necessarily a series of tell-all books.
The day after he's done with his office, there's going to be books, there's going to be insiders coming out of the woodwork, blowing the whistle on him. It's a disgrace that Jay Carney passes for a journalist on CNN now. But the day after he's gone, what really outraged me, I'm just a citizen watching the news like everyone else when it comes to the federal government, is that what happened with the Obama raid and how it had to make so much publicity out of it. And everyone now people are coming out and fighting over who shot bin Laden. This whole thing's tragic. It should have just happened, and they should have moved on. And they had to make a movie about it and partner with Hollywood. That, to me, was really awful to watch that.
Well, it's glorification of the one. That's what it is.
Oh, did you hear the Obama love story is in production? They're going to make a movie about Michelle and Obama's love story.
That can't be real.
It is. I think it is.
Okay, so it's
Hollywood, they love him.
So it's time to find their real lovers.
I hope it's fake.
It wasn't those two, that's for sure. Let's expose who Michelle's real lovers were or are, and who Barry's boyfriends were.
This kind of nonsense is the exact reason why what James does is important, and you should support what he does. If you don't, and you can't do it yourself, you can certainly help him and his organization by making donations to Veritas and giving them the tools that they need to fight all of this stuff, because that's really what it comes down to. I tell people, I said, if you can't blog under your own name, blog anonymously. Yeah. If you don't want to do that, give it to me and I'll go look for it, because I had to blog under my own name and I refuse to not do that. Yeah. But, there are people who will do the work, and of course, you're the only one really doing the work you do. But, you talk about doing 2 investigations a month, and, obviously there's a lot of costs associated with the time and effort and energy involved in doing this, pre-production, post-production, etc., and you need help with that. So how do people support you?
TheProjectVeritas.org, right, James?
Yeah, it's ProjectVeritas.com these days.
Oh, okay.
ProjectVeritas.com, and then we also have another group, ProjectVeritasAction.com. They both do. One of them does election-related investigations, and the other one does just general investigations. We're nonprofit charity organizations. And, if you don't want to go out and confront the corrupt, prosecutor on the sidewalk, then send me $20 as a sort of stake in me. If you can't do that yourself, if everyone listening to this program donated $5, we could basically fund the next investigation. So
and that's fantastic stuff. And some of the stuff that we heard yesterday, and no names will be named, suggests that the various departments of the government are causing serious problems with the way they are regulating and oppressing American businesses, and some of those businesses are looking to get some of those whistleblowers and their stories out. So we may be seeing cracks in the edifice here. That the pressure has become so great that businesses are beginning to say, how do we break the story? Where can we go to get what we're hearing out in public?
And of course, we were talking to Jorge before James came in about a superintendent from Massachusetts who moved into New Hampshire and has now become this little tyrant because they did things differently there, and he's just making decisions that aren't. It's not kosher. He doesn't have the power or the authority. He doesn't have the fiscal authority, and he's making these changes. You could do your own investigation of this guy, or if it's a story like that, and you're certainly willing to donate to James, you can, people can suggest to you things that they see that might be worthy at some point, or maybe not. But you get your ideas from somewhere. You can't just think of them all yourself.
I get my ideas from everyone else. People, we crowdsource the creative component, and it's some of the best ideas are hypothetical ones. What if you did this? What if you did that? And in rare occasion, it's tough to sift through them all. But if you're saying, look, I've got this professor who is, spitting on the American flag in the classroom, then you give me some facts and I'll go do it. We're idea rich and cash poor, though. We have plenty of ideas.
Right. You said you get 200 suggestions a month, and you can do about 2 investigations.
Yeah, somewhere around that. We got 50 pitches a week. I mean, clever stuff. I saw one idea, and I saw this on YouTube, but where a guy was waving the ISIS flag, and everyone was coming like, keep it up, bro, keep going. And then he started waving like the American flag or the Israeli flag. They would like spit on him and curse at him. So there's just so many ideas, so many clever ideas that I could do, and it's just a matter of prioritizing them.
Yeah.
Well,
So, get out there, donate to Project Veritas or ProjectVeritasAction.com. Buy his book out there. He only gets a small cut from that, but we're putting the picture. No, it's on the live stream as a JPEG of the book.
okay.
Steve.
I don't have to hold it up
You
anymore.
don't have to hold it up. I get the picture right there. And that's James O'Keefe's Breakthrough. It's been out about a year now. It's a great book. And even some of us are featured in it, including when James and Skip confronted Mr. Richard Head.
Yeah, that's right. You are featured in that chapter, The Rise of Richard Head. When he came to your house and started putting criminal grand jury subpoenas on the unbelievable stuff.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that might not happen to you, but we want to encourage you to
do not be intimidated.
Right.
Help at the fringes if you can. Make your opinions known. Contribute to James. Help.
And there's a lot of media in New Hampshire that's friendly to your cause, including us. Yep. You've got Rich Gerard and his radio program is growing an audience. You've got, NH1 is the new TV station. You might get a little bit better action there than you would with WMUR News 9.
You got Jeff Chittister and his program.
So, if there's something you guys want to get into, and you've got the facts and you've got the ideas and you think you can get it done, do it. And, we're happy to help.
And send ideas to James, but more importantly, send money to James because
he's got ideas.
He's got far more ideas than he's got staff or money.
And he's been here already to help us out. So we should help
I'll
him.
be back again.
James and his team have helped to expose voter fraud in New Hampshire and embarrass some of the officials. And they'll be back.
You got about a minute. Closing thoughts?
We've said a lot here. Going back to our original conversation is, if you think about how to overcome that fear and the best way to articulate, to people who are afraid, what's the best way to overcome that fear and in your own life? I think it's very discouraging. The first questions I get asked are you have safety? Are you afraid? Are you, it's very discouraging. It's disheartening for me to see our country so up in flames like this. And I'm not as much of a student of history as I should be, but certainly the founding fathers and people who even the people who are in service who give up their lives for our country, they are not afraid. Mm-hmm. And I think ordinary people, we can't even pale in comparison to the sacrifices that they make, but we should try to emulate that, and we should try to put our reputations on the line and take risks and fight for what's right.
James, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks.
And
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week with another edition of GrokTALK as I turn my music back on as everybody leaves and I don't turn off headsets like I'm supposed to. See, it's been a week off is not good for us. We lose our mojo. But we bring in good guests and we try to have great conversations, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, baby!
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
How can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
"There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change."
Jeanne Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by SaberPac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
All of the music on this program comes to us through Creative Commons licensing from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers, not necessarily those of CNHT, GrokTALK.com, or anyone else for that matter.